I mean, maybe those Dogs fans that are hammering me on social media now can probably give it a spell, but the deal's done anyway. That's the main thing.
They'll ramp it up now. He's gone.
Ah, well, that's all right. Bring it on.
G'day guys, welcome back to Supercoach for DR. It's been a little while since I've last uploaded. Would have obviously been the end of the Supercoach season, so hope that you're all going well. I hope that you're all happy with your team's trade bounty. Some teams were. I know that maybe some teams weren't as active and maybe fan bases are not really happy with what they did during the trade period. But from a Brisbane Lions fan's perspective, I was absolutely wrapped. And that's why I'm here today. I'm going to do a quick review of the Lions trade period, talk about a couple of players that we brought in, a couple of players that we lost, as well as a bevy of draft pick swaps. We had a lot of work to do this year. But look, you're probably thinking, what's going on with your DA? You got the bags under the eyes, bloodshot, looking worse for wear, worse than normal anyway. The reason being, we have been absolutely blessed. A couple of weeks ago, we welcomed our third son into the world, Little River. He's an absolute champion. As you can see there, another Future Lions member as well. So, yeah, absolutely wrapped. Wife was an absolute champion. So proud of her. Just could not be happier at the moment. So, absolutely wrapped. But unfortunately, little fella has his nights and days mixed up at the moment. And we're not getting a whole heap of sleep when it's dark. But look, we're not here to talk about babies. We're obviously here to talk about the Brisbane Lions trade period. So going into the trade period, we had 4 picks here, pick 15, 33, 44, and 69. I've allocated points to each of those picks so we can see 112, 563, 362. And then when you get to those real later picks, we only got 49, obviously, there for pick 69. But we went into the trade period with a total of 2,086 points. Now, the excitement for Lions fans started nice and early. Josh Dunkley had finally made his decision and publicly announced that he wanted to be traded to the Lions. And I think at the time, both Port and Dog supporters were left a little bit disappointed. And I did receive some good early mail about a week earlier. So shout out to that legend that didn't actually want to get named. But it was great to have it finally confirmed. And look, it was always going to be a deal that was going to go down to the wire. But ultimately, and history does suggest this, if the Lions publicly commit to a big name player, they will get the deal done. But we do need to skip to the 4th of October to look at the first move we made, or more accurately, the move that Dan McStay made. And I'm not going to be including any puns about McStaying or McLeaving. So our first official slice of the trade week action was seeing Dan McStay exit the Den and take up a decent contract offer at the Pies as an unrestricted free agent. And I was told again, some good mail back in July from someone close to him, that this would be the case. So it was certainly no surprise when this request came through. Certainly sad to lose him. He's a ripper bloke, plays a selfless role, always provides a good contest down the line. Just a really good, honest player, but he's no saviour. He won't kick you 3 goals a week, but should be a really solid addition to partner up with Myercheck. So in return, Brisbane received pick 35, which was an increase of 525 points in our total this year. And I think this is really a deal that hopefully works out well for both parties. Now, the next pick swap sent Dogs fans into an outrage. The pick 15 that was originally on the table for Dunkley was then traded to GWS for 2 second-round selections. And Dogs fans took this as a real slap across the face, a kick to the nuts by the Lions management. And don't get me wrong, I could see where they were coming from and certainly understand the frustration. I personally valued Dunkley higher than our original offer that involved 15. We did also have our future first involved, but wanted a swagger of picks back again this year to add to our points. But from the Lions' perspective, as we just mentioned, points, they needed to move on quickly and focus on adding to their tally this year. And this was a really favourable deal, a gain of 644 points, and this is using ladder positions from this year as a guide for future picks. And it was also important to trade in a future second to allow some more flexibility with our own future picks, given the rules that are in place there. We can see a couple of angry Dogs fans here, and this really did set up a war of words between both supporter bases for basically the next 2 to 3 weeks. Northern Soul has a pretty good point here. He says that 15 would have opened up so much. Maybe you could have packaged it up to move up if they really like someone. It was clearly the most valuable trading asset outside of a very good player. An optimistic Dog has replied here, and I think he does live up to his name here. Very optimistic, but he says that's okay. It says now McCluggage, Berry or Rayner, or they can piss off. Just shows, Josh, they did not really want you above 2 father-son picks. The grass is not always greener on the other side. And then has a further dig. At the moment, they do not even have a coach. And some more player demands come through. Grant wants Berry, Rayner or Bailey. Benny Smith says that all of a sudden Harris Andrews wants out a supposed hot take that there'll be a Dunkley McCluggage straight swap. All of the above are absolutely untouchable. And I did try to shut it down. shut down the Rayner talk in this tweet, but a few, such as old mate Dogs Man, was still sure that Rayner would be involved. Things continue to get nasty. Jez says that we don't want him. We're just a shit club. We're the next Essendon. But I couldn't help myself and just replied with a cheeky tweet of Vossi with his 3 premiership cups. I did take a little bit of the bait, and I'm absolutely ashamed with myself. There are, the usual Bears insult, claims that Lions recruiting team was stupid, but unfortunately I couldn't include some of the more, let's just say, colourful tweets that were put out there. But then things got really, really serious. We have the PSD threat.
Another club call and go, if he does end up in a pre-season draft. Yeah.
No. To be honest, we didn't. I think my comments on the weekend might have upset a few of the Dogs, but
now, Sam Power and the Dogs had grown restless, and they'd come together over a few scones and maybe a couple of cups of coffee and agreed that if the Lions didn't pony up with 2 first-rounds pick, then they would send him to the dreaded pre-season draft. Now, look, do I ever think that it was a realistic threat? Not personally. I can't really understand the logic, but many Dogs members wanted to take a stand and say they were prepared to lose him for absolute duck eggs. Bucks was on board, putting the pressure on. Danny pretty much sums up here what I just said. He was happy to see him go into the blue and white stripes, straight into the PSD, but all that this did was give false hope to poor North supporters such as North Fan TV. Grant adds that, it's that false hope, claiming that we're incompetent. Dogsman advocating for the North move. And we even have Luch claiming that he's now going to Eston. It's crazy stuff, but we'll get back to the Dunkley trade in a minute. The next player we lost was one of my faves, Tommy Berry, brother of Jared. Good player, but struggled to cement a spot in Lions 22. Now heading over to the Gold Coast Suns, should definitely get an opportunity as one of those small pressure forwards. He's hard as a cat's head and will always give 100%. So a great career move, in my opinion. As sad as I am to see him go from Lions, he's got a much better chance of playing some senior footy up there, and he can still continue to live in Queensland without having to uproot his whole life. I suppose he could probably still live with Jared as well. But again, this was a really great deal for the Lions. We sent Berry along with pick 46 and a future second that we just acquired from the Giants for picks 25, 36 and 56. Now again, based on ladder predictions next year, that's only a small gain of 243 points. But there was some absolute genius to this move. We managed to turn our pick this year, 46, it was worth 331 points, into over 1,450 points this year, and moving so many points into this year's draft was just a super transaction. 1,450 points is equivalent to around pick 9, so a great move here to get some extra points in for those father-son bids. Next, we had a really good pick swap with the Cats. You can see with the title here, Cats move up the order, Lions bank more points, so winner-winner for both teams here. I think Brisbane certainly got the best end of the deal here. So we sent Geelong pick 25, which was our current second round pick, and in return we got a second round pick, which was 38, so a little bit later on obviously, 2 third round picks, 48 and 55, a future second round selection and a future fourth round selection. Again, based on ladder predictions, that would be 36 and 72 next year. So that was a net profit of 739 points, only 218 points this year, but again, invested into next year, an extra 521 points there. I did put out a trade saying that Brisbane's great trade relationship with the Cats continues. Great deal. We've got blokes like Lincoln McCarthy, but don't get me wrong, they did send us Jared Jansen. No offense to Jared, but yeah, all in all, I think a really great deal for Lions here. Smart move. The next deal that we did was to bring in a Dan McStay replacement. What a great move this was. Jack Gunston is now a Lion. He's a 3-time premiership player, All-Australian, best and fairest, 3 times leading goal kicker at Hawthorn, including 2015, which was a premiership year. Great leader. He'll provide a really experienced and calm head in our forward line and be a more than adequate replacement, as I mentioned. Certainly past his absolute best, but he has been dealing with injury for the last couple of years, and I expect that the nice Queensland weather will get the best out of his body. Cracking addition to the side. The Hawks have been very kind to the Lions, and that continues. Birchall, Hodge were 2 really solid additions, but this bloke really will do wonders for us next year as that third tall forward. The deal in the end was that we lost about 302, exactly 302 points. We could have obviously got him for nothing, given the fact that he was a free agent, but given the fact that we didn't want to dilute that Dan McStay compensation, we traded for him. Worked out really well. 48 and a future 4th round selection. Beautiful deal. Jack Gunston, welcome to the den, mate. Now, by this time, some people were getting nervous that the Dunkley deal wouldn't get done. There was about a couple of hours to go and still some big question marks over it. Some were sure of it. It would not get done. But as I mentioned before, I always had absolute confidence that we'd get it over the line, and even went the early crow a day before, signing off on the Dunkley deal and also advocating for a statue of Don Ambrosio. Luke thought the Suns were absolutely locked in. Damo had concerns that the deal may fall over. All eyes are on the Dogs and the Lions. But in the end, Picker's got his man to his club of choice and also had a good laugh about it. Josh Dunkley was officially a Lion.
Dom did a great job. As I said, and so well done to the Lions. He's a Lions player.
So what actually was the deal at the end of the day? Well, we obviously got Dunkley and 2 future third-round selections, one which was tied to Melbourne, and the Dogs received second-round pick 21, a future first, a future second, and also a future fourth. And at the end of the day, that lost us from this year only 756 points. Haven't actually worked out what it will be going into the future. And again, it's just going to be based on ladder predictions anyway, so most likely it's not going to be accurate. But look, Dogs fans, can we be friends now? I know there was a lot of bickering, a lot of toing and froing the whole time, but let's just be friends, please. Let's just be friends. And look, I think the deal could have been done possibly a little bit earlier. Well, that's what Liam Pickering said anyway. He had a little bit of a dig, just saying that the reason why the deal didn't get done earlier in the day was a bit of a haggle for that future fourth that he doesn't even think will get used.
What was the final piece that needed to be over the line before this deal could get done and your man Josh Dunkley could get to the Lions?
No, it was just a future pick. It was a fourth, I think. So, yeah, anyway, it dragged on a bit longer than it should have.
Would this have been done days ago?
Yeah, I think it could have been done the first thing this morning, to be honest. But, haggling over a pick that's in the future and, pick fourth-round pick that's probably never going to get used anyway. But anyway, that's what we do.
Now, not everyone agrees with me in saying that the Brisbane Lions had a stellar trade period. Expert here, Dem Panopoulos. I'm not sure if I've said that one right. I've probably butchered that one. But his criticism of the Lions is the fact that we weren't honest with ourselves. We didn't have an understanding of where we sit as a club, and we should have really targeted a key defender. Now, I won't read the whole thing. I've just included a little snippet of the article here. And look, to Dem's credit, he actually does provide some good points in the article. I think this is from the Raw, so you can go back and check out the whole thing here. This is just the introduction to the article. But look, while I do agree with him that, look, it would have been really nice to add to our key defensive stocks, the issue is that, well, what other options did we have? Let's look at some of the key position players that were actually traded out that we may have been interested in. And I can probably only name 2 may make their way into our 22, and that's Liam Jones and Griffin Logue. Jones was never happening, and Logue was always pretty keen to go to Melbourne, I think. So aside from them, we've got other blokes like Cordy, Frampton, Wiedemann, Corbett, Francis, Shaki, and no disrespect to any player, but no one that I would really call quality. So although I agree with Dem that it would have been nice to add to our defence, I just don't think that there are any decent options available, and I'm hoping that maybe with late pick in the draft that we may be able to snag Riley Green. So in summary, we have 2,441 points going into this year's draft. We are now 350 plus points better off after the recent trade period, so really well done to our recruiting team there. Picks 34, 35, 36, 38, a lot of 30s, 55, 56, and 73. As I mentioned, we managed to bring in 2 elite players. Josh Dunkley, absolutely in his prime, coming off the Dogs' best and fairest. Jack Gunston certainly past his prime, but can play a really, really important role for us. An elite player back in the day, and still someone who is one of the better forwards in the comp, in my opinion. We did lose Dan McStay and Tommy Berry, but at the end of the day, the ins compared to the outs, I think we are definitely ending on a positive there. So the big question that's left on everyone's minds now is, will GWS end up bidding on Will Ashcroft, or will they give the illustrious title to the number 1 pick, Aaron Cadman? Well, I'm hoping that's going to be Cadman. If not, we'll manage to work it out. We've got enough points there to not go into too much deficit next year. And remember, we can always do some live trading on the night as well. So that's my take on the Brisbane Lions trade period. Let me know how your team went, how you think the Lions went, and I'll see you soon in the next one, guys. Take care. Catch you soon. Bye.